All right. Thank you guys for joining us. This is MEmoTalks episode 4. We're recording this January the 2nd, but we're actually going to be celebrating the year 2021, and celebrating with me, as always, is the lovely and angelic Chey. How are you doing today, Chey?
I am great, thank you. How are you today?
I'm awesome.
I've never had someone
2021.
describe me as lovely and angelic. Thank
I
you.
mean, they should describe you that way more because it's the truth. Was it painful falling from heaven, Shay?
Oh gosh, don't even. Speaking of 2021, go back to 2020. Take it with you.
No, 2021 is the year of cheese. I decided that literally just now, just so you know.
I'm down for it. Let's make it all about happiness and fun.
So we did not record this on New Year's Eve, obviously, but we're gonna do a sort of spiritual countdown to 2021. Shay, do you have your poppers, your party poppers ready?
We're gonna celebrate.
Hopefully we can, because I know that there's a bit of a delay with Discord, which is how we record this podcast. I hope that there's not too big of a delay. Also, if you're listening to this with headphones, at 0, we are going to be blowing these up. So
you've been warned.
You've been warned, exactly. So definitely keep that in mind. Do you want to do the countdown, Shay, or do you want me to?
You do the countdown. It's your podcast.
Okay. Let's pretend, go back to 11:59, December 31st. Let's set the scene. It's been a horrible year, and we are now welcoming into the new one. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ah, no, it's not popping. Ah, yay! Oh, that is actually. It's not as loud as I thought it was going to be, but this is like, I didn't realize I got like the fancy poppers. What the heck? Let's do another one.
Here you go.
Yay!
Confetti everywhere. Oh
yeah.
my.
Oh, I love that I'm gonna have to clean this up because I'm the only one that it's all over my keyboard now.
Yes, same, all over my desk.
We are in 2021 now, officially.
No more doomsday.
Yes, exactly. That means that all of the horror and terror from 2020 is over now, right?
We're done with it. We're done.
Just kidding. It's gonna follow us.
Let's be honest, guys. I love the positivity, but let's be realistic. Just because the calendar rolled over, everything's not going to come to a stop and be rainbows and unicorns.
And speaking of horrors of 2020 that are going to be following us into 2021, we thought it would be fun to talk about personal scary stories. This is something that I had done in my Twitch stream when I was playing. What game was I playing again?
I think you were playing Resident Evil, weren't you?
Silent Hill.
I
haven't played Resident Evil in a while. That's fine. They're very similar. I was playing Silent Hill 4, and we were talking about ghost stories and things like that. And I thought, hey, that's probably a good thing that we can do during the podcast. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of like talk about horrors from our past as we anticipate the horrors in our future.
In the future.
That's
hopefully minimal.
That is very bleak, but yeah, exactly.
Minimal horrors. But we're gonna have some fun with interesting other horrors.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you want to start off with a story of your own, or would you like me to start?
I can start off if you want me to. Sure. To preface, I just want to say, obviously, everyone has their own beliefs. Some people don't believe in paranormal, ghosts, aliens, whatever it is. If you don't, that's fine. The stories can just be fun. And if you do, then we've had some experiences that we think make our opinions a little bit, valid for us. So if you don't believe in ghosts, that's totally fine. I'm not judging you. But so my mom used to have a company that did vacation rental houses. This was many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, before the recession, before Airbnb was a thing. But think Airbnb, essentially, is what she did. Okay. And in order to save a bit of cash, we would go and professionally clean the homes ourselves instead of hiring people. And there was one house that had been newly built. So it's really interesting that this story would happen at this location. But the way that it was laid out was really odd. It had like a grand staircase that went up around a curve, but there was no light fixture switch at the bottom of the staircase. The only way to turn on the upstairs light was upstairs, which is inconvenient, but it's important for the story. So again, we would professionally clean these houses. This was a luxury house. It was like a mini mansion. People were paying thousands of dollars to stay here. So everything had to be tip top shape. And I mean, we dusted, we mopped, we cleaned, we did the whole nine. And the house was notorious for having things like moved and turning on and off on their own, which like,
Oh God.
we always just thought, oh, it's just these people not paying attention. They didn't remember they left the light on or whatever. We didn't really think too much of it. But so then when we started cleaning this house after we started using it, it was really odd when like I would know I had just went and cleaned the formal living room. Everything was immaculate. It had been vacuumed, cleaned, straightened. It was perfect. And we would be coming back through the house when we were done with other rooms, and suddenly the painting is crooked or like a lamp was on. And I was like,
no.
I didn't think much of it. And
Yeah.
so my mom is a very spiritual person. For anybody who's listening to this, she is not religious at all. She's very, very spiritual. I am not. So she, of course, oh, it's haunted, but it's okay. The ghost is friendly. And I'm a teenager. I think I'm like 15. No, that's not true because I was many years before that. I'm like 12 or 13. And I'm like not having any of this until one day we're cleaning and I've cleaned the upstairs and I'm vacuuming my way down the stairs. Now, remember, I can't have the light on because the only switch is upstairs and I would have to walk back up said clean stairs to turn the light off, right? So I have the light off and I'm just using a flashlight and the lights from downstairs, like the ambient lighting. Okay. And so I'm vacuuming. I get to the bottom of the stairs. I'm doing the living room. And then the light turns on upstairs. No one is up there. It's just me and my mother. She's in the kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, what the heck? And so like, I'm kind of freaking out a bit. And my mom's like, oh no, it's okay. Just ask me to turn it off. And I'm like, what? So she literally walks over and she's like, hey, like, can you turn the light back off? And I'm like, this lady's out of her mind. And the light turns off. And I'm just like,
oh my gosh,
are you serious right now? And so we had tons of stuff like that happen. That was just the one that really got me because I know for a fact no one was upstairs. I know for a fact the light was off because I was going to the effort of trying to be able to see with the light. Like that one really got to me because I can understand like paintings, they slide, and stuff like that. Radios, I can understand.
There was like an explanation for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, like, or there's just some things that like there are many plausible reasons, but for that one, no one was upstairs. The light was definitely off. It's not like a timer or anything. Like these were overhead can lights. Yeah. You had to turn on with a switch. And the fact that like it had turned on and I was like freaking out for several minutes and it didn't turn off, and the minute that my mom goes, hey, can you turn off the light? And it does, it really
that's
me.
So much. That is so much. Oh my gosh.
It really got me. It got me good.
Wow.
And my mom is just like such a nerd. She's like, okay, thanks. And just goes back to what she's doing. And I'm just sitting there like, what the actual heck is going on right now?
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy. Does your mom still own that? Like,
no, she lost it with the recession. She lost her business and all that. Unfortunately, as most people did with the recession. Which honestly I'm kind of okay with. Yeah, well, yeah. Not the 2020 recession. Can we call this a recession? I'm going to.
I think they've been avoiding it, but it's basically a recession.
I mean, yeah. Just not on the same like, capacity as the other one. But yeah, pretty much it is.
That's so crazy. Did you like go back and like clean there again? So or was that like, no, mom, you're gonna have to get somebody else?
We did, and I never liked it. And after that one especially, I made it a point to not clean anywhere like without her being in the room. Just because, again, like she said, it's friendly and all that, but I'm not a spiritual person like that. I was not comfortable. It freaked me out. And you can say something's friendly. I can't see it. I can't hear it. I don't know where it's at. No, I don't want any part of it. I really didn't like it. And I had always been uncomfortable in the house. And, my mom was always just like, you're being dramatic, blah, blah. And so after that, I was very uncomfortable. And I was not sad when we didn't have
I would be too.
I was very relieved. Relieved when that one was gone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I say I would be uncomfortable too, but I've been... Okay, so just kind of a little bit of a background on my belief system when it comes to things like paranormal and stuff like that. I personally believe that everybody has like a... like for lack of a better word, like a standard ward, like a protection against the paranormal, you know what I mean? Like we all just like kind of have this like ingrained like defense against outside forces, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But like people who go out and like do ghost hunting or like kind of like seek that kind of thing out, they kind of like the ones who are successful at least, they kind of like learn to take down that protection and like let paranormal things come in. You know what I mean? Which also kind of like just as a bit of a tangent, it's also why I believe only religious people experience things like possession because they're so religious, and religion in more of like a like more or less scientific explanation is a paranormal thing. Um, Religious people, in order to like fully commit to themselves to their religion, they take down that protection, and they're more
Mm-hmm.
susceptible to things like possessions or like religious experiences and things like that. So my belief is that I do believe in the paranormal. I believe in things like that. I guess from a religious standpoint, I would consider myself an agnostic. Is that the
Agnostic is when you don't believe in organized religions, but you do believe in people having either deities or gods or
okay?
God, Jesus Christ, etc., etc.
Okay, so I'm agnostic. I don't believe in organized religion. I think it's not the best place, but that's another whole other conversation. So basically, my belief is that we kind of have this own personal protection against outside things, basically. And when you have those like kind of experiences like you just explained, your mom believed in it, and I think maybe like subconsciously you just had that in the back of your mind, and you subconsciously kind of like let that protection kind of like wane a little bit, and that's when the entity or the ghost or whatever was able to interact. Um, that being said,
Can I
I
interrupt you just real quick?
yeah.
Sorry, before you. So it's interesting you say that. So I told you I'm agnostic. My
Hmm.
mom, again, is very spiritual. So a really well-known psychic, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. Her name is Sylvia Brown.
I have not.
She's supposedly a really like world-renowned psychic. Supposedly she's like, and I say supposedly not because I don't believe, but just because, he said, she said. But
Yeah.
supposedly she has, predicted a ton of things and stuff like that. And something that she says is that everybody has a spirit guide, a protector guide. And so they are a spirit or a being that is
Hmm.
with you, and it is their job to protect you. And so when a lot of people say that you have a sixth sense, if you do believe in that, and like knowing things or having like a gut feeling, a lot of people who believe in her and what she says is that it's not actually like a sense that you have in your body, it's your protector spirit warning you or trying to protect you from those things. So I just wanted to point that out because I think
Okay.
that's really interesting that you say that you would have that, because again, if you are religious like you had said and you believe in God and all that, then you very much don't believe in that kinds of thing, So I just
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting. And I remember that's something my mom used to always talk to me about when I was a kid, and I had completely forgotten until you just brought that up. So I just wanted to
Oh,
say that that's really interesting. That you don't even know who she is, but yet that you feel that way.
kind of believe the same thing. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, so that's always been like kind of my belief. Like the reason that the majority of people don't experience stuff is because they haven't really bothered to, you know, let themselves experience that stuff. And I say that because when I was younger, I did have some friends that were super interested in paranormal things. And so we sometimes would go out to places that we thought might be haunted and put ourselves in situations to experience paranormal things. So I actually have a lot of stories. And I will say, actually, at first, I did not experience a whole lot. And I think it's because I was kind of going in as a skeptic, and I kept up that kind of like self reward. You know what I mean? And then as we kind of started doing it more and more, I think I started like letting it down, and I did definitely have a lot more experiences like as a child. After kind of like going out and like seeking this stuff out with friends, I would very commonly see things in the corner of my vision, like full on people standing there, but then when I look, there's nothing. And that was like something I experienced quite a bit as a child. I don't experience it as much anymore, but I obviously don't like go out and like seek that kind of stuff anymore. um I would say one of the most common experiences I had as a child, again, after going out and doing all this crazy stuff with friends, because I was a dumb kid. um I was very uncomfortable sleeping with my closet door open. And it was because I would always wake up in the middle of the night, typically about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would be able to see a white figure standing in my closet every single night. And so I would and it was like I never like it was kind of like frightening, but I was never like scared. So
Afraid of it.
yeah, so what I started
Mhm.
doing, like literally I would just like get like it was like unnerving enough where it was like I got to a point where like I can't sleep with my closet door open anymore. So I'd every single night make sure my closet door was closed. And yeah, so like that's just something that happened to me quite a bit when I was younger. Just
No, that's so funny you say that, because to this day, I cannot sleep with my closet door open. Whether it's a
really.
walk-in closet with a like an open closing door or like a sliding closet, I can't sleep with my closet door open.
Hmm.
It freaks me. And I've never seen anything in there, but like it just I can't. It freaks me out. It's a subconscious thing, I think. But that's ironic that you say that, because literally since I was a child, I used to be a bedtime routine, like close the closet door, lay down, tuck yourself in, you know. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like I've always like I mean, obviously as I got older I didn't experience that anymore, and actually my closet door is always open now. But I think it's also because um I hate these closet doors. They're the ones that are like panels that hang from the ceiling, kind of.
Uh,
And they don't really
yeah.
close very well, so it's always just like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave this shit open. I don't want to have to deal with it. So it's always open, and it doesn't scare me anymore. But as a child, I very, very vividly remember waking up nearly every single night, almost at the same time, and would just see this figure standing. And it's like I couldn't see like any features, but I just know that it was like vaguely human shape, and I would just like, and it was one of those things where like I would look at it and I would see it and I would get kind of like frightened, and I would like let my eyes adjust and like like because I just woke up, let my eyes adjust and like watch it and like kind of like expect it to be like an illusion, but it would just remain there.
Really? Oh,
Hmm.
that's spoopy.
Yeah.
I would be like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, no, growing up I was absolutely terrified of well, I mean, actually not even just closet doors, absolutely terrified of open doors while I was sleeping, because I started closing my room door, my closet door, everything. Like even my bed was like a wooden frame, and there was like on one side there was like drawers, and then the other side of the bed was against the wall, and then at the foot there was like this wooden like footboard, and a door, like a cubby door that opened so you can get underneath the bed. And like I would leave that open sometimes, but like before I would go to bed I would just shut it. Like I would always make sure it was shut.
Same way, bedroom door had to be closed. I don't now as an adult, but that's only because now I live alone and I want to be able to hear what's going on in the rest of my house, just for like safety purposes. But even
Yeah.
then, now as an adult, this is gonna sound so stupid. Y'all are gonna laugh at me. I can't sleep with my back to the door because it's open. I have to be able to see the like if I were to wake up, I have to be able to see the door. I can't be flipped around and like be facing the wall or anything like that. I have to be able to see the door or I can't sleep.
I don't think that's stupid. I think that that's probably like a very common female experience. And I
Probably. I
say
mean,
fem
I appreciate you say female because it probably is because I know men don't really worry about that kinds
no,
of stuff,
I don't worry about anything.
um, but yeah, it's definitely something I have to have the door open. The only exception to that is like if I have company over, then I'll close the door for their privacy just because, they're in the other room. But even then, yeah. And I will say that's not even this apartment where I'm on the first floor. Even when I was up on the third floor, it was still the same thing. I still needed to have it open. I still needed to be able to see and hear what was going on outside in the rest of my house.
Hmm. No, I mean, I can definitely see that. I wouldn't like make fun of you for that. I definitely feel like I I probably don't experience the same thing. Like I get upset when people forget to lock the door at my apartment. Like
Oh
I'm
no.
always like, why the heck is this door unlocked? So like I'll go and like lock it, and like I have forgotten to lock the door myself a couple times, but like I'm just like I'm always like aware of locked doors, and like sometimes like at night, even though we're on the second floor, sometimes I'll go around and like make sure all the windows are locked. You know what I mean? Just like I guess that I'm kind of like that's like my thing, but like I can see like as a modern female who lives alone, probably want to, you know, just kind of
Oh, I
constantly
do.
be aware of
Yeah,
your surroundings.
absolutely. Same thing. Before I can go to bed, no matter how tired I am, I have to get up. I have to make sure my car is locked. I check both the locks on the front door and the sliding door and my windows, which honestly, there's only 3 windows. So it's not a lot of work. but I have to, because if not, I lay in bed and I'm like, is my door locked? Fuck, did I lock my door? And I know I locked it because I religiously lock the doors, but I have to go check and make sure it's locked. So I totally understand
Yeah.
that one.
No, absolutely. I get that. There's definitely like times when I'm laying down, like falling asleep and everything, that I'm just like, I'm gonna check the door that the door's locked, and I just get up and check the door.
And then it
Like,
makes you get up. Yeah.
so no, absolutely. I definitely get that. I don't, but yeah. So that's my it's one of my ghost stories. Um, white figures
With
in
that,
closet.
what do you think about children being more inclined to like spiritual activity versus adults? That's a really common thing that I've heard and read. What is your opinion on that?
I think that there's definitely validity to that. For a long time, I actually kind of like helped raise my niece. You know, and she was very young, and I definitely felt like she would sometimes like look at things, like kind of like stay fixated on things that like I didn't see anything, but like she was very clearly seeing things. I don't know. I don't really know that I have an explanation. I don't know that I fully buy into the whole like young people are just more in tune with things like that. Um, but I'd have definitely like feel like I've experienced young people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at
So
something
I was
that
asking, so
I
another
didn't
interesting
perceive.
story that I have.
Hmm.
I used to be a nanny before I moved up here to Seattle. I was a nanny for 8 years. Um, and there was a new family that I was starting to sit for. Mind
Hmm.
you, this was my first time sitting for them alone. So I'd met them previously, like in the interview. I went to their home, met the parents, met the kids that I'd be sitting, blah, 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 all that stuff. So my first time going there on my own, right? Get inside, talk to the parents, all that kinds of stuff. They're about to leave, and the daughter comes out of the room. She was, I think, five or six, like young, still young child. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, your grandpa died." And I'm like,
Oh my
"What?"
gosh.
My grandpa had indeed passed away the week before.
Uh-huh.
I had not told these people that. I had not told really anybody that, just because it's a nannying job. It's not like a 9 to 5 every day a week. So I mean, my
Yeah.
my bosses from our agency knew, but I hadn't told anybody that. I'd never even like talked to this girl about my family. And so the fact that she had like known that it was my grandpa, like so specifically, you know what I mean? And like I
Yeah.
hadn't said anything about it. I was just like, I had no idea what to say. And then her mom was like, "Honey, that's mean. Don't say things like that." And I was like, "Well, I mean, no, he did.
He
My
did.
grandpa
Oh
passed
my
away last
gosh.
week." And her mom was like, "Oh, well," and like you could tell she didn't know what to do, and we were all kind of just like standing there. And I was like, "How did you know?" And she was like, "Oh, I just know." And I was just like, "What?" I was so creeped out with that kid for the rest of the night. Like she was a nice kid. We got along great, but I was just like, "You're weird."
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. No, I definitely see that. But I feel like that kind of like thing, maybe I don't know, maybe in that instance it was because they were a child, but that actually did kind of remind me when my grandpa passed away. Um he was getting up there in age. He was had a lot of health problems. He was almost completely blind, almost like completely deaf. And my mom had actually moved in. My grandparents are from Santa Fe. That's where they lived. My mom had actually moved in with my grandpa to take care of him after my grandmother had passed away. And he had this like leather like armchair kind of that he would sit in, and he would constantly like take naps in and stuff like that. And that was actually where he passed away. He passed away sitting in that chair. So I went down there for his funeral, like did the whole thing. And then like, so I guess some like distant cousins who had come down for the funeral had to come over to my grandparents' house to like talk with my mom and my auntie, and like kind of like just talk about my grandpa and so like that, kind of like catch up and stuff like that. And the leather armchair was like kind of like next to this couch. And when they came in, and it was actually really weird. Like I guess I didn't like really notice it at first, but like when they came in, I was sitting on the couch, my mom was sitting on the couch, and they like kind of like came in, and like we walked up and everything. They kind of came in, and they both kind of like squeezed onto the couch, even though there was this leather rocking chair sitting there. And these were like distant cousins that had not like spoken to my grandpa in like 20, 30 years, you know what I mean? So it's like they could not have possibly known that that is the chair that he passed away in, or that's where he commonly sat. And like we were like kind of like having a conversation, and I had like stood up because it was like, okay, this couch is kind of cramped, so I like stood up to like give people more room, and I was like standing like off to the side of like the living room area. And then like after a while, um the woman who I guess is would be, I don't know, like would she be considered my auntie if she was my mom's like second cousin? I don't think so.
If it was your mom's cousin, no.
Yeah, so like, well, this woman like was just kind of
Distant
like,
family.
yeah, distant family. I guess that would be like an auntie once removed, something weird
Like
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
So she was just like, she was like, I don't know if it's really weird to say, but I just kind of feel like this chair, like somebody is sitting in this chair, and we were just like, well, that's actually where he passed away. And they both basically said like, well, we came in, we saw that it was empty, but we just felt like we shouldn't sit there, like that's why we sat on the couch. And you know what I mean, it was just kind of like they both had this like feeling like that spot belongs to somebody else, we shouldn't sit there.
Which is so interesting because, like you said, they didn't know. They
Hmm.
weren't close to you guys, but yet they knew subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. And so like for me it was always like, you know, maybe my grandfather's spirit was in that chair at that time. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
sitting
Because
around
my
waiting
grandpa
for family.
loved, yeah, my grandpa loved talking with his family, and like, you know, like, and I'm sure that if my grandpa were still alive, he would definitely want to be there when these distant cousins came to visit. You know what I mean? So I
Because
just
they
kind of
probably
like,
weren't family he saw often, I'm
yeah,
assuming.
exactly. So like for me, it was like I definitely felt like, especially after they said that, I definitely felt like my grandpa was sitting there so that he can see, you know, these distant cousins.
What a neat story.
Yeah.
Honestly, I totally understand why people are skeptical about kind of stuff like that because, like, oh, how would you know? Or, so I totally get it. But stuff like that, when you hear it, it's like, how can you deny that kinds of stuff if they didn't know, they had no way of knowing, they haven't been around? Like, that's not just something that you figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
Especially like
like
you said. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like, you know, kind of like my skeptic mind always kicks in, and it's like maybe at some point they, because this was after the funeral, after like the I can't remember what it's called, the when we all like went to like a
Oh, I don't know if that's the right word.
to eat food. I can't remember what it's called, but like, you know, after the funeral we went and like ate food and everything, and like I was like, and like this, the skeptic brain is like, maybe at some point they overheard or they were told he passed away in his favorite chair, and like, but then it's like, what's the point of like keeping up that charade? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why would they lie about it?
Yeah.
Well,
But sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say what was interesting to me was that, like you said, you guys were already sitting. It's not
Hmm.
like they just took the empty seats on the couch.
Yeah.
They crowded the couch instead of taking an open vessel, which is what was the interesting part to me
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
that. Um, that they chose that, but it's interesting, especially. Would you say that your family is more spiritual or
No.
no?
I
Not at
definitely,
all.
yeah, not at all. I definitely feel like I am much more open-minded when it comes to things like that. My family, I would say, is religious, which I don't 100% prescribe to organized religion. I think in the way that my family mostly does. My grandparents were super Catholic. And you know, that kind of like comes with its own things. I think they passed down a lot of that like belief system to my mother. And then she kind of like filtered it a little bit more and passed that down to us. But I definitely feel like my family is much more religious than I am. And they're definitely the type that's like, hear ghost stories and immediately think that's the work of the devil, or like that's evil. You know what I mean? And
Uh,
I'm definitely more like, maybe not the devil. Maybe there's another explanation that doesn't have to be
right.
100% good versus evil. I feel like I definitely believe in more of like a gray area than the majority of my family does.
Mhm. Well, which is interesting to me. I am not religious. As I said, my mom's spiritual. So I was never raised religious. But from what I have heard from friends of religion, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, but a lot of religions believe that actually spirits and all that and angels are tied to God and that they come from heaven. So it's interesting to hear that in other perspectives and religions, they say that like stuff like that would be from the devil. Because from what I've read, a lot of people say that when you do see a ghost or whatnot, it's somebody, from heaven or someone who's waiting to go up to heaven for something. So it's interesting to hear that like completely flipped and hear that it's something evil and from the devil.
Well, I mean, you also have to kind of that's why I brought up the fact that my grandparents were very Catholic, and it's because in Catholicism, anything not directly related to or from the church is basically evil. And that does like
Okay.
the basically like it's so weird because like my understanding of Catholicism as like, and again, I wasn't raised as a Catholic, but I had there was a lot of Catholic beliefs and revolving around me as I grew up. And for the most part, it's a lot of it is if it can't be explained directly with religion, it's evil. It's something that the devil is doing. And basically if you I guess like interact with it or like, like then you're inviting the devil.
That makes sense.
So, but I mean, Catholicism in general is just like everything you do and everything you say and everything you think is evil. So that's why you have to go to your Catholic church and ask for forgiveness.
An interesting perspective on things.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, obviously, like there's a lot of ghost hunting shows on television, right? That
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are like, oh, well, those are fake and set up. And one that I used to watch when I was younger was Ghost Adventures. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes. Yeah. That's the one
Okay,
where
perfect.
they just have their own cameras and everything, right?
They used to, yeah. Back when it first started, it was three men, right? Three
Mm-hmm.
friends. And they didn't go in with a big camera crew. It was literally just the three of them. They all carried their own cameras and stuff, and they had, just average equipment, nothing fancy. And now, since then, they've admitted that in the future seasons later on, when they kind of were running out of content, that they did start faking things. But they are adamant that like the first couple seasons, everything that they did record like on their own without the big production crew was genuine. And I always found those pretty interesting, especially listening to the stuff. And obviously, like they use suggestive, marketing in there and subtle stuff like that. But something that I was really interested in was a YouTuber that I watch. I don't know if you want her name mentioned. She
It's
did
fine.
a ghost. Okay, Glam and Gore. She's actually a makeup artist channel. She's
Okay.
known for special effects makeup artistry. But so for her Halloween series, she used to do like these huge elaborate makeup looks, and she just got tired of doing that. And so, 2018, I think, is when she started it. She traveled to like famous, well-known quote haunted places,
Uh-huh.
and kind of did the same thing, but on her YouTube channel. Right? It was just her and her friend. They didn't have like fancy equipment, they just carried their cameras. There wasn't a
Right.
production crew. And they just went through like these places trying to like either debunk things or not debunk things. And I like that she kept it very neutral because the friend that she took with her specifically was very spiritual and did believe in ghosts. And she's very skeptical and does not believe in ghosts. So it was a really nice balance. And they got some things that, she couldn't really explain, but also like they were just kind of like, oh, well, even though you don't have guaranteed proof it wasn't real, it could be explained by other things. But there's one video where they're exploring a hotel and they're sitting in a basement, and they're not even trying to look for evidence. They were actually filming a sponsorship that she had, and they start getting activity suddenly. And so they like pick up their phones, and you can literally see it, and it's a guy across the table filming another guy that she's talking to. His phone is sitting on the table because he's taken her phone to film her with,
Yeah.
and he's not touching it. Like you can see it clear as day. It's a nonstop shot. It's not edited. He doesn't touch it, and his phone starts recording on its own. And it's just so, yeah, it's just so wild
Mm-hmm.
to watch it happen. And like he doesn't notice it for a second. And then you can see him look down because the screen has changed, and he realizes it. And she totally calls him out. She's like, you did that. You did that. And he's like, no, I swear, watch the footage back. I
Oh
didn't do
my
it. And just
gosh.
like stuff like that, I love that people are doing because it's like, you can't explain that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not something you can do. And it's especially interesting with phones. Obviously, like they're heat sensitive. Like that's why you can't use your phone with gloves on in the winter
Mm-hmm.
because you need your fingers. And it's, I don't know, it's just super interesting to me when stuff like that happens. So I thought I'd bring it up for people who are like skeptics.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say, just really quick, it's actually not heat that activates touchscreens. It's we all have like small like electrical currents that run through our body, and the screen actually reacts to those electrical currents. Which is
Okay.
why you have to get those like gloves with like the special like finger
The
tips in order to,
tips.
because
And see, that would make sense.
yeah, so but that, it does also make sense. Like I'm not just trying to like debunk what you just said. Actually it does still make sense, because a lot of people like a lot of the like equipment that people use to like record paranormal activity actually records electromagnetic fields.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, because that makes sense that you would be able to have because that's what they say ghosts are made of, right? That's why they carry EMF
Yes.
detectors in like all the big
Hmm.
fancy shows, is because they're detecting the electromagnetic
Electromagnetic
electromagnetic.
field.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, field. Yeah, and so that actually totally makes sense that it would work on the phone, um, and stuff like that. But yeah, they did a whole series. She did it the next year as well. Obviously, she didn't do it this year because of COVID.
Right.
Um, but she did it for the 2 years, and she went to like a variety of places, and some of the places she really got weird stuff. And not everywhere was interesting. There were some locations that were kind of just like, eh. They didn't really get very much. But I like that
Yeah.
she just left it that way and didn't try to like fake it up and be like, oh look, we always got something interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's 100%. Have you ever like gone to like local places that you heard were haunted, or like were famously haunted
No,
locally?
absolutely not.
Why
Okay.
not?
No, definitely because again, I do believe in ghosts, and
Hmm.
I was fairly spiritual when I was a child. I'm not so much anymore. No, absolutely not. Places like that really freak me out. It's not that anything bad has ever happened to me. I've never had a negative experience. It's just that because I don't understand the way that those things work, and I'm not nearly as in tune with my spiritual side as my family is,
Uh-huh.
it just, the thought of what could happen is what scares me. Like, for example, my older sister is really well in touch with her spiritual side. She is notorious for predicting deaths and pregnancies. She's predicted accurately 3 people dying
Oh my
that we all
gosh.
knew, and she's predicted dozens of pregnancies. Like, she is known for having a dream about somebody being pregnant, and literally within a week, guaranteed, that person always like comes out and is like, oh, I'm pregnant, or ends up being pregnant. It's happened to our family. It's happened to friends, people that she's known. It's happened to people that she's known that she didn't even know. It's so like, yeah, I can't do anything like that. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to put myself in a situation where something happens and then I can't explain it, or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Well, I mean that makes sense. The reason
I'm
I
a
ask
coward.
though, the reason I ask
Short
is because
story.
I definitely did go to places locally. And I mean, I live in Colorado. I did definitely go to places locally that I heard were haunted. And I feel like, especially if you live in like the like North Denver area, and what I mean by North Denver is like Westminster, Thornton, that kind of like suburban area that's north of Denver. That is where I grew up for the most part. And I feel like if you're from that area, then you've probably heard of Riverdale Road. It is this really long stretch of road that, like, I mean, Riverdale is a lot longer than just this stretch that basically has nothing on it. But Riverdale Road, there's a part of Riverdale Road where it gets like really old. Like the road is kind of old. There's almost no street lights, like different things like that, and like there's just like the occasional like collection of trees and like sometimes like a building and stuff like that. But for the most part, Riverdale Road is, this stretch at least, is just like completely empty. And when I was younger, looking up different places that we thought would be like cool to like go and like get scared by, Riverdale Road is one of the ones that kept coming up, and we lived relatively close to it, so we decided to pack up into a vehicle and go to Riverdale Road. And just like basically what the story is that there's a lot of stories. One of the biggest ones I did not personally experience, but it's definitely something, if you look it up, you're most likely going to hear the story. Like while you're driving, you will see a woman that's hitchhiking. And if you stop and like if you stop to pick her up, you'll notice that she's in a wedding dress, and she will get into the back of your car, and then when you start driving, she will just disappear. That did not happen to us,
Okay,
but
thank God.
one of the things that did happen to us that I don't really remember if this is something that you like one of the stories of Riverdale Road that you will find if you Google it. But one of the things that did happen to us is we stopped, pulled over. So like basically what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to find this stretch of road where there's like basically no street lights or anything like that. Pull over to the side of the road and turn off your lights and just sit there in the dark. And what I began to experience was I started hearing I I don't know how to explain it. Um I don't know, it to me it sounded like rhythmic drumming and like off in the distance. But after a while I realized that it was matching my heartbeat. And I think when I had that realization that it was matching my heartbeat, my heart started beating faster. And the drums started getting faster and faster. And then after a while they started sounding like they were closer and closer and closer. And I started panicking.
Yeah, I would too. What?
And so like yeah, I just remember like we need to get out of here. Like turn on the lights, turn on the vehicle, let's drive. And
Sitting in the
um
darkness?
yeah, just
Definitely
sitting in the
not.
darkness. And I know I remember that one of my friends said that they actually experienced something similar. Um but they said that I think they had like to them the their heartbeat like was accelerating much faster than mine was, and they said that it sounded like there was drums right outside our vehicle, and just before I was like we need to leave, sh- my friend said that it looked like there was a handprint on the window.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, see, this is exactly why I don't do this kinds of stuff. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was absolutely terrifying. I will never forget it. Ironically forgot it until you said something. But I just
About
like
it.
no, like just like actually now that I remember doing that, like I just remember being so scared and like my hands just shaking and everything and just like and it was something that I could not explain. Like cuz at first it was just like maybe I was just maybe because it was like so quiet and so dark, maybe I was just hearing my own heartbeat. But it didn't explain why it sounded so far away.
Yeah.
Um And then
Well, and
like
I
and it didn't
appreciate this
explain it
story
getting
a
louder.
lot because so for me, I've seen a lot of people who do stuff like that, like especially YouTubers now. It was like a big thing last year to go out into
Mhm.
like a forest, right? A haunted forest. And for me, it's like forests are such a shitty place to ghost hunt because there's so many variables.
Yeah.
Animals, people just wandering through the forest, people like out doing their thing, hiking, hunting, what camping, whatever. There's just too many variables that to me, you're not going to be able to get something that I'm going to believe because
Mhm.
there's just so many things that it could be. And which Glam and Gore, the girl I mentioned earlier, she did one in the forest. Same thing. So many noises, but again, just animal noises or people, walking
Yeah,
through
there's
the
like way too
forest.
much stuff
Or
around.
another beauty person who did it was Nikki Tutorials. She's a super big person who, does that kinds of stuff. And she did one and, she heard a bunch of noises and she even heard like gunshots, but I'm like, they're people. You can't say
Yeah.
they're ghosts because I'm not going to believe you. So I appreciate that yours isn't something like, oh, I just heard this super crazy noise. Like yours is such a realistic, like, why would you make something like that up?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again, you were sitting in the road. You're not sitting like out in the middle of some trees where you can't see anything. So I appreciate like when you started telling the story, I was like, oh God, here we go. But then you actually gave me something that I was pleased to hear. So I was happy about
No,
that.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
But it's also interesting that your friend had a similar experience. And like you
Yeah.
said, maybe you were hearing your own heartbeat. But why
But
would the exact same thing happen to her and have
mhm.
like just a slightly different experience? You know what I
And
mean? With the handprint.
I also want to point out the person that was driving did not experience anything. Because
Interesting.
there was three of us. It was me, this girl, and the driver. The driver did not experience anything. It was me and the girl that had the experience.
And where you said you were stopped, right? Stopped and
Yeah.
parked?
Stopped, parked, and
Interesting.
we stopped and parked, and like all of the stories online just say that you have to turn off your headlights. But we actually went a step further and like turned off the vehicle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Huh. And that's so interesting that they didn't experience anything. Now, was the driver like a skeptic or are they like a believer?
A little bit. I think they were a skeptic, but they were also the one that like, because like I said, we did a lot of stuff like that where we would like play with Ouija boards and different things like that. And that the person that was driving was always the one that didn't experience anything and was just like, you guys are just making this up. But I think it's because, again, kind of going back to what I was, my belief, what I said
Shutting
my belief was
yourself
at the
off
beginning.
to it.
Yeah, just kind
Hmm.
of shutting themselves off. I think they didn't really have the ability to like let themselves experience stuff. Um, but yeah, no, the driver did not experience anything. It was like me and the girl that was like having a panic attack.
Go down. I will say that I also agree with people shutting stuff out. I had a friend, the one place I have been that's supposedly haunted. I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately. I'll have to look it up. It's a house in San Diego in the old town. That's like the original house. They've left it. It's like a monument now. You can take
Uh-huh.
tours through it. Um, and like the whole time I was in there, I didn't see anything. I didn't like hear anything or anything like that. But the whole time I was in there, I was just very unsettled. And that could just be because like I knew, that supposedly was haunted. And so like I was just psyching myself out.
Hmm.
But she was like totally chill through the whole thing. But it's because again, she doesn't believe in it. So she's like, it's just a house. We're just touring a house. Like it's all fake rumors. Like they just make this stuff up.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why people like that don't have experiences because they're not open to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's 100% my belief.
I also think, like you said, if you shut yourself off to it, not only are you closing off like mentally your mind, but then like you said, the religious aspect of if you are religious and you don't believe, then you're not gonna be able to connect with whatever is there if there really is something there either.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like why, cuz like I think that's been like whenever like the topic of like whether or not possession is a real thing, whenever it comes up, somebody inevitably always says, well, if possession is a real thing, then why is it only religious people become possessed? And it's like, because they believe so devoutly in, in the things that their religion teaches them, that they're allowing those kinds of things to come in a little bit better. So that's
Hmm.
that's my at
That
least that's my explanation.
that makes sense. Yeah. Also, I googled it. It was the Whaley House for anybody who's interested,
The
because
Whaley House? Why does that sound so familiar?
it's a well-known haunted house supposedly.
Oh, okay. Maybe I've like
um,
seen something about it before.
yeah, from what I remember, people say it was haunted because it was built on a graveyard. I know that's true. Um, and I think that after they had built it, they just had a ton of awful things happen. Like I think they built it and then right after they built it, like their baby died and then like one of their kids got sick and died and then like another one like something happened and she committed suicide or like just I remember it has a ton of really dark history and they were saying that like because they built on a graveyard they were cursed and stuff like that.
Hmm. Oh, did they
I
turn it
mean,
into a museum? I'm looking it up. No, that's San Diego.
yeah, San Diego, California. San
Oh,
Diego
for some
Old
reason I thought you said Seattle. I don't know why.
because I live in Seattle. No, I was visiting a friend. I googled it. Yeah, so the family built it. Um, and after they built it, they had 6 kids. Him and his wife had 6 kids. So their youngest baby died at 18 months of scarlet fever.
Of course.
Then part of the store that was attached to it caught on fire. And then let's see what else. Yeah, one of his daughters committed suicide. What else? Um, oh, she woke up and her husband left her. They were on their honeymoon apparently, and her husband was just gone.
Wow.
But yeah, so apparently like just all this crazy stuff happened.
Oh, you know
Um,
what? Okay. I just sorry to interrupt really quick, but I just wanted to say this. No wonder why this sounds so familiar. I've seen. I think it might have been a Tumblr post that was like trying to explain somebody's haunting. Oh, there's like that was like a piece of confetti in my hand. The reflection scared the shit out of me. um
when you spook yourself.
so I apparently, so the thing that I was like, it was a Tumblr post, I'm pretty sure, but it was like somebody had said that this woman walked through the wall, and like, so like this person was trying to like scientifically explain why the ghost would always walk through this wall, and it was basically like, let's get floor plans from when this building was originally built, and it turned out that there was actually a hallway there. And so, like, basically, this person died before the inside was basically gutted and redone. And
Hmm.
so, like, the ghost was walking through the hallway that was there when they died. But it
Would make sense.
in our, in our like reality, it was walking through a wall.
Yeah, because the wall was new though. For them, that wall didn't really exist.
So
that would make sense.
That was 100% about this building, because now that I'm looking at a picture of like the front of it, it's like, oh yeah, that's where. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. But yeah, so the building was built in like 1857, according to this. So, but yeah, it's been through a ton of stuff, and it's maintained now. So it's never going to change. It's been historically maintained by an organization and stuff. But that's just like the one time you asked if I'd been somewhere. That's the one place that I know of that supposedly was haunted that I have been to.
I mean, other than your apartment.
What? No, don't even. No, I just have really loud neighbors. That's all. No hauntings.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, this is not paranormal or anything like that. It's just something that really scared me a couple days ago. I had taken my dog for a walk. I was home alone, supposedly, and I came back, and like, I think I was doing something in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I just hear this like boom. And I was like, and it was coming from my roommate's room. And I was like, oh, because he was gone. I was like, okay, well, maybe he came home while I was out taking the dog, and maybe he parked in the garage, because I didn't come in through the garage. So I was just kind of sitting there for a bit, and I was like, I'm going to go downstairs and make sure that his truck is in the garage. So I go downstairs, open up the door, and like, there's nobody in this garage. So as I'm walking up the stairs, I text my roommate like, hey, are you home? Like, because like to see if like maybe he had parked someplace else and like walked, because he does that sometimes. And he texts back like almost immediately like, no, not home. And I was just like, because I'm pretty sure I heard something really loud fall in your room.
That's awful. That's so scary.
And he called me, he called me, and he was like, do you want me to be on the phone while you take a look in my room? And I was like, yeah, like that's actually
yeah, please.
I mean, so I went to his room. I did not see anything falling over. Everything looked normal. I like looked around to make sure that like nobody had come into the apartment while I was gone or anything like that, and just like, nope. So the only thing that I can think of is that it was our upstairs roommate. Our upstairs roommate, our upstairs neighbor, probably dropped something above his room. But then it was like, I don't know. For me, it was so loud, it sounded like it was coming from, right next to where I was standing, basically, which is the wall to his room. But yeah, that scared me.
That's so creepy. That's the hard part, like when you live with other buildings, because again, something like that, it could easily be something falling. Like you said, it could have been another neighbor, but also like it could have not been. You can't like definitively say like it was definitely my neighbor,
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, that kinds of stuff is terrifying. I am very grateful that this house doesn't have anything like that, because if I thought it was haunted, I'd be out. I'd be like, look, even if you don't believe in ghosts, you gotta cancel my lease, lady. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Oh
I wonder if that would stand up in a court if she told me no.
I don't know. I mean, because that's a good question.
I
feel like in movies, people are always leaving houses and stuff like that because they're haunted. So it's like, but that's a movie.
Yeah, movie versus reality. I've known people who definitely like have thought that they've lived in a house that was haunted. For sure. So some people don't mind, I guess. Some people don't care.
I guess it's also kind of like the vibe, you know what I mean? Like if it's like an unnerving vibe, you don't want to stay there. But if it's just kind of like, like sometimes my salt shaker just falls over and I just have to like clean up some salt, like that probably wouldn't bother me. But like if it was like, I wake up or like if I'm home alone, I feel like somebody's following me very closely. You know what I mean? Like,
hell no.
Then it's
absolutely
like,
not.
No, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, certainly not. I agree. I feel like the atmosphere and how you feel in like the house that I was telling you about at the beginning of the podcast, it didn't feel negative. Like you didn't feel like anything was there. If you didn't experience something happening, you would have never known that wasn't just like a normal house.
Yeah. So I have a lot of ghost stories. Probably too much for
one podcast.
for a single podcast. But maybe we can do this again. Do you have any other stories before we wrap up?
have any particular stories other than that like I have that sound realistic that I can explain the backstory of. I was curious though, what is your opinion on other like paranormal activities such as like aliens and stuff? Do you believe in that? Can that be considered a paranormal activity? I guess.
I guess, I mean, paranormal is anything that's not normal, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
I would include aliens in paranormal. I don't think that they would work the same way as we've been discussing, ghosts and things like that. For me, I definitely believe in aliens. I think it's a little silly to believe that we're the only things, in this universe, that are
Yeah.
intelligence. I think it's just silly to believe that. So I definitely believe in aliens. Do I believe in like the typical UFOs, people being abducted and things like that? I am not convinced, but I feel like I also have not seen enough evidence against it. You know what I mean?
Sense. Yeah. I'm pretty much exactly where you are. It's incredibly impossible to me that we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe. And if we've achieved space travel being stupid humans, then I'm sure whatever else is out there can as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially being like the fact that we just continue to discover new things literally every day. But again, there's nothing really concrete that's like been able to sway me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely, that's definitely my feelings on it. But I mean, who knows? They're and I definitely feel like anything that is like scary that happens to us on Earth is like probably like it could potentially just be a million times more horrifying out in space. And it's only because like you said, we're like scientists are discovering new crazy stuff in our universe like every single day. Like I don't know if you've heard about it. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but like years ago scientists like discovered this like black spot in the universe where
Yep,
there's
I
like
do remember
nothing
that.
there, and they like recently found out that it's actually moving like very fast, faster
It's not a
than.
black hole, to clarify for anybody
Yeah,
listening. It's
it's
not
not
a
a black
black
hole.
hole. It's literally just like a black empty space of nothing.
Yeah, and it's like, and basically like the mathematical like what is it, the probability that that would even exist is just like it's impossible. There's no way that there would just be this huge empty space in the universe. Why is it empty? Like all kinds of stuff. And like they actually found out that it's moving like very fast, faster than anything like recorded. And that's just terrifying. Like what the hell? Like
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and you've got to think too, we used to think like we were the only planet in the universe, and then we found 9 other ones, and then we found a
Mhm.
whole universe, and now, just like there's so many things. So for me, it's just to think that we are the only thing with life is just like, there's no way. It can't
Yeah, it's
be.
silly. It's ignorant to believe that, to be totally
Exactly.
honest.
Yes, ignorant is the perfect word. Like, sorry if that's offensive, but if you really think that we're the only people who are smart enough to figure shit out,
Yeah,
you're
absolutely. Oh my
wrong.
god. Again, I don't believe, like, to be perfectly honest, my feelings on it is like if aliens have come to Earth, they probably like saw like.
What a shit show we are. And they just
Yeah,
like, nah,
exactly.
we're good.
They're
I'm
like
out.
these Earthlings will not even wear a mask to like
Right.
protect each other. They're not worth landing and saying hi to. Like, let's
Yeah.
be real.
They've come, they looked around, they're like, you know what? We're just gonna leave you to do you. We're gonna go back to
I just
our
I just
area of the universe.
I just like the idea of like a family of aliens like stopping by and like it's like they're on vacation or something like that, and they like it's like checking into like the world's worst motel with like an obvious serial killer person at the desk, and they're just like, we're just gonna keep going. We're gonna like
Gonna
they just
keep
pack up
on
their spaceship
moving.
and like leave, like go to a motel on a different planet.
Right. Well, I'd like to think the aliens are more intelligent than us. And I feel like that's just
Hmm.
like the trope because like in every movie, game, whatever, that's always what they are. You know what I mean? But it would make more sense because when you think about it, we are truly limited in knowledge. And
Yep.
a lot of people think humans are so smart. We're really not. When you break down, just like think of how many things we've learned just in the last 100 years. Like forget the rest of humanity and everything else that we've done and achieved in all of forever, and
Yeah.
just think of the last 100 years. We're really not that smart and we're really not that advanced.
And
So to think that there would be, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I definitely think that a lot of the like belief systems and like the limitations that we put on ourselves is definitely slowing down our progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are our greatest enemies.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you were saying.
Very true. No, you're fine. I was just gonna say that, it would just make sense that other alien, I don't want to call them aliens, but like whatever other civilizations that may exist are probably more advanced than we are. And that's not to say like again that it's a guarantee, but it would just make sense to me in my mind that they would be, of a higher level than we are, and that would make sense as to why they're just like, yeah, no, we're just gonna let the humans destroy themselves. We're gonna hang out over here.
Yeah.
We'll come back in a million years when you're all gone.
Right.
That's
Maybe
what
when
I
our
would do.
successors are here.
Right. Once humans have evolved, we'll come back. But that's just my thought process. I personally have never had any like UFO alien sightings, happenings, whatever you want to call them, happen. So I was just curious about your perspective on that. Maybe it's something we could explore in a future podcast.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like I mean, unless we get somebody on who, feels like they've had personal experience, it would be kind of boring because both of us, like me and you, are just like, it's possible. Like maybe that's a
Open to
thing.
it.
Like I can
Maybe.
I can talk about like ghosts and the paranormal like for hours and hours and hours because I feel like I've had tons of experience. But when it comes to
Mhm.
like aliens, it's like sure I believe in them, but
Yeah, like you said,
that's
we
it.
haven't had any experiences. Let
Yeah.
us know, guys, if you've enjoyed the ghost talks and if you would like that to be for another episode. Because, like Mimo said, we can go on and on and on and on about this stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think that like as we get closer to October 2021, it might be a good idea to like maybe read scary stories on on the podcast or something like that. That definitely I
Oh
mean, I'm
gosh.
looking really far into the future, but like oh yeah, actually before we go, that's actually something I wanted to bring up. I just recently rediscovered because I've known about them for a very long time because I'm Native American. Have you ever heard of a skinwalker?
Oh gosh. Okay. I have not heard of it. I have seen one video that keeps being recommended to me by Corpse Husband because he reads a story about a skinwalker, and I was immediately like, "Oh hell no!" I'm not even clicking on it. So educate me, give me nightmares. Let's
Okay,
go.
so just a really quick boil down thing because we're almost running out of time for the podcast. Real quick boil down thing. Uh, in a lot of Native American, specifically Navajo beliefs, is that a skinwalker is a witch or like some sort of like evil magic user that can disguise themselves as other people and animals, but they're always just like kind of very slightly off. So, and the reason I rediscovered it is because I was actually watching. I know that it's not even a podcast anymore, but I was watching the Jenna and Julian podcast. Jenna Marbles and Julian, what's Sorrento? Can't remember his last name. Um, I was just watching some of their old podcasts, and they were reading scary stories for Halloween, and they read a story about what the person who wrote it assumes is a skinwalker. They're reading like real life scary stories, and it just reminded me that like they imitate animals and people, but they're just slightly off. And
Mhm.
the person who was writing the story said that they saw their dog outside, even though they knew that their dog was like upstairs. But like the hind legs looked like they were longer than they were supposed to be.
My God, why did I let you do this to me?
I personally,
Nightmare Central.
I 100% believe that skinwalkers are real, and I don't know. I've never heard of anybody like being hurt or anything like that. But there's so many stories that like people post online that's like, this is an experience that I had, and then other people are like, that sounds like a skinwalker, and then the person's just like, what? What's a skinwalker? So that is just like too much coincidence for me.
Yeah, and see stuff like that. I'm like, what is the point of their existence? And that's not to say that you have to have meaning to exist, but it just makes me wonder, like, if it is real, how was it created? Why? What is its purpose? If it's not a malicious thing and it doesn't hurt you, like what? Why would it choose to imitate something? Why is it like with you specific? That kinds of stuff. My
Hmm.
brain just immediately goes a million miles an
Well,
hour.
some people believe that skinwalkers are just like tricksters and they just like want to scare people. Other people think that skinwalkers are legitimately there to hurt you. But they can only hurt you if you lock eyes with them.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
So yeah,
That's
definitely something to look up between podcasts if you really want to. Like there's I think there's a subreddit called like real scary or something like that. And it's people posting their own personal scary stories, and they actually have like a section specifically for skinwalkers, because there's a lot of skinwalker stories out there. But that seems like a good place, Sunny, to go ahead and sign off on the stream.
We'll leave you with all those nightmares, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
I bet you were not expecting going into 2021 with a whole new sense of fear, but that's how I'm entering 2021.
It's what I needed.
All right, well, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.